I have the pleasure and the honor to introduce the one and only Mr. Dele Oyegbile. He's someone who is he's a data engineer who is very, very passionate, in what he does. He leads data services teams at Investment Planning Council, which is a subsidiary of IGM Financial. He has a background in computer science with a master's degree in information technology. He has diversified in so many industries, and he has extensive experience in the private and public sectors in Nigeria. He's also dabbled in the UK and currently in Canada, accumulating over 20 years. Some of the major industries he's looked at are the financial, the government, manufacturing, and software industry. Like I said, he's very passionate about continuous improvement and development in technology, and he's always looking forward to seeing what the next step is in terms of the future of data and how it affects all areas of business development. So I employ everyone to welcome Mr. Dele. Please take it away.
Sorry, guys, we're not in person, so there's no clapping. It's all cool.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Hi, everyone. Let's see. How do I share my screen now? Just a minute. Yeah, can everyone see my slide?
Yep, we're all good.
Okay, I'm good here. Okay, just a minute. Okay, all right. Yeah. So, as everyone today, how's the weather been? Cold as usual.
It's November.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for that intro. I have kind of been in technology for almost 20 years now. I started. I had my undergraduate in computer science. I started as a software developer, and I've grown over the years working with data, doing a lot of development, data, and as technology keeps on changing every year, there's always so many things someone needs to learn and someone needs to kind of get to know in regards to data. I believe everybody knows now. Cloud is now the end thing. So that's now a kind of different technology on its own. When it comes to data, it's just a lot to learn. So let me jump into my slides today. Let's do this. So what am I talking about today is why data analytics. So my focus today is just more of the very basics, introduction to data analytics. I will not go into any tools. I will not go to any particular technology, but just for us to kind of have that basic understanding of data analytics, more of why it's important and kind of why it's kind of everyone's talking about it and kind of the main importance. So I say why data analytics, right? It helps business optimize their performances. So let's go to the next slide. So my agenda today is to kind of talk about the benefits and types. So let's start with the benefits. So I have 3 points here. Proactivity and anticipating needs. What do I mean by that? So if you notice today, most organizations that need to stay ahead need to have information. And how do they get that information? It's just more of getting data from people. As we all know, everyone today uses a phone. Everyone today goes to social media. Yeah, from user point of view, you are just having an experience. But the people behind those tools are gathering your information. By gathering that information, they know how to serve you better. So that's just what happens today, more being proactive and anticipating needs. Being able to gather information and able to kind of deliver what customers need. Delivering relevant products. So I think that's kind of one obvious one that most times, whenever you go buy something like Amazon, for instance, you buy one product. Because you buy a product, because they have that information on you, They're able to kind of determine what other products you would like to get. So it just helps based on that data. They're able to kind of get that information and is able to they're able to kind of focus on products that might be kind of useful to you. Optimizing and improving customer experience. Yeah, so like I said, also data is always very key. Based on whatever information they gather on particular customers, they're able to kind of serve that customer better and give that person a different level of experience. So I'm going to now show you, move to the next slide, which is is a kind of funny funnel, but I explained to you why I kind of like this funnel and why it's kind of, I just enjoyed saying, I like saying this funnel. Why? So I know everyone has heard the term big data, right? Yeah, big data all over the place, data from the internet, data from everywhere. So you can imagine that massive data, and you can imagine, like, for instance, like Google, everything online, everything read as data. So just look at this funnel. We have all data coming in, but once all data comes in, it needs to be converted to a different form, which is called information. Then information is converted into insights. Insights converted to actions, which now makes an impact. So, for instance, if you have all that data and there's no transformation of that raw data, at the end of the day, it's very useless. So you can imagine, for instance, Google, like I said, a lot of information is gathered every single day on Google alone. But if that information is not translated into information, insights, and actions, there's no impact. It's just more of garbage. So, like I said, this is my lovely funnel. Just kind of makes one see that big picture of, yeah, I have so much data coming in. But at the end of the day, it narrows down to a final action, which leads to impact, right? So let's now break down all these terms into more details. So data, what's data? Data is just more of raw, unprocessed facts that are usually in the form of numbers and text. Data can be quantitative, as measured, or qualitative, observed, but data primarily exists in computer-friendly formats and mostly lives in databases and spreadsheets. So that's, like I said, yeah, in a raw format, it might not be that useful. In a raw format, it might not be able to understand what it needed for. But at the very onset, yes, you know that you have the basic data to work with. So the next step will be information. So what's information? Information is more of prepared data. That's not data that you've processed, that you've aggregated, and you've organized to a more human format that kind of provides context. Information can be divided in form of visualization, reports, and dashboards. So having raw data, yes, it's just the base. It doesn't have proper true meaning, but once it's converted to information, it has a better picture and it has a better audience. At least whoever's looking at it can interpret what that data means. So next step will now be insights. So what do I mean by insight? Just more of, now we have this information. Now, what do I use this information for, right? Yeah. Now, how do I analyze this information and draw a conclusion? And for that information, how do I kind of make the best use of that information? That's the insights we're getting from that information. So both data and information set the stage to discover for discovery of insights that can influence decisions and drive change. So I think it's just that overview of what I mean by data, information, and insights. So at the end of the day, once all this comes together, we're able to kind of create that action and impact. And that's kind of what's key in data analytics today. It's just more of being able to kind of know how to gather your data, how to interpret the data, and how to kind of analyze and discover and how the data can influence your decisions. So that's more of my overview of benefits of data analytics. So let's jump to next. So types of data analytics. So that's we have 4 key types. We have descriptive, diagnostics, predictive, and prescriptive. Okay, so what does this mean? So I love this diagram. I follow Gartner. Most of you might know Gartner is a very popular body. They have very good information in regards to data and technology. So I kind of follow them a lot. So so what does this diagram tell me? So there are different stages of, like I said, types of analytics, right? So, and each of them have their meaning and what is useful for, right? At the descriptive level, we're asking the question, what happened? That's kind of very basic stage of your data. Just asking, yeah, what happened? How can I compare this data to what has happened in the past? Diagnostic is just more of why did it happen? It's now more of digging further into that data to understand why that's the case. Predictive is now more of what will happen. So now I have some data now. Based on what I have now, how can this information be useful to kind of predict what will happen in the future? And finally, we have how can we make it happen? So I think this is now more of where we're not going to that more of machine learning, more of complicated part of analyzing data. So based on my this diagram, you could see at every single level, the difficulty changes and the value changes. I think in a world of data, yeah, like I said earlier on, we have data, information, and insights. For every single data we have, right, value is very, very important. If you can't define why you need that data, then really what's the point? So therefore you can see from my diagram here, from this diagram, you can see the importance of the value going up. So the more complicated the whole process is, the greater the value. Yeah. So let's go to the next slide. So let's now dig into more of descriptive analytics. So like I said earlier on, just more being able to kind of compare, interpret historical data to better understand what has occurred in a business. Just kind of drawing comparisons to what has happened in the past, and to probably see trends and understand how things have been growing. Just kind of very helpful information to kind of help you plan. So that's more of the descriptive. Why did it happen? So in this scenario, just more of advanced analytics, where you now have to kind of dig deeper into asking the question on your data. So for instance, I have my descriptive, I understand this for the past couple of years, this is how my business has been growing. But if something happened at some point in time, you now want to ask yourself, why did this happen? So based on the data you have, you're able to now kind of dig further into that data, where you now probably use data mining, correlations to understand why did this happen. That definitely metrics or reasons why all these issues happen. So it's just more being able to kind of dig into all this and be able to kind of come up with why that happened. So that's more of diagnosis, more of drilling into your data. So next slide says, so I'm not too fast. I'm just fine. Okay, so my next slide says predictive. So I think this is where it now gets more interesting, and in the sense that I think this is what most get to hear out there, data, machine learning, being able to kind of have data and predict what's going to happen in the future, right? So what this does is just more of predictive analytics. Is able to kind of describe using statistics and modeling to determine future performance. So we have your data, and we are now using tools, modeling tools, statistics,
I think you're frozen.
now how do I kind of relate all this together to kind of determine what's going to happen in the future? So this involves yeah, there's more involved in at this stage, because we're now having to use more tools in area of statistics and area of using modeling tools. So that's what I can say about predictive. Prescriptive. How can we make it happen? So this has to focus more of yes, I have my data for what has happened in the past. I understand what's happening, but the question now is how can I get this information and build on the future, and how can I get this done in a more efficient way? So this is where machine learning comes into play. Also using tools, like I said in predictive, we use tools, modeling tools, statistics. But at this point of prescriptive, we tend to use more of machine learning, more algorithms, just to kind of pull out those scenarios and kind of build scenarios, kind of help you accomplish your end goal. So that's about prescriptive. So my next slide, samples. So looking at various sectors. So for instance, I'm currently in the financial sector, and when we talk about analytics, it's just more being able to kind of describe, being able to kind of compare what's happening in various periods. And when it comes to prices, when it comes to costs, when it comes to fees, we need to be able to kind of compare what happens in various periods. So which is kind of very, very helpful in the financial sector. In the retail sector, we have, as we all know, customers always have various demands, right? Things are always changing. Customers always have various demands. They always have looking out for what's new in town, what's latest trend. Being able to kind of gather this data and information, we're able to kind of understand trends and recommend products to customers. Travel and hospitality, being able to, if we're able to kind of collect data, we're able to kind of understand challenges that customers face, and once we understand these challenges, we're able to kind of proactively recommend fixes and get things done. So so my presentation was very, very short, but I'm waiting for many questions. So like I said, my focus was not going into any tool, but of course, based on your questions, I can give some feedback or I can give some answers to your questions. But what I wanted you to do was just more of introduce data analytics, very basics, and of course, we can always build on this. So I think that was my very short introduction and short presentation. So I think it's open to any question from anyone now.
If you could stop sharing, we can get to some of the questions. I have some in chat.
Okay.
And I know there's some in the audience as well.
Let's do this. Stop sharing. Okay.
All right. So Kola, I'll go ahead and take over the administration of our Q&A here. So we do have a question in chat about tools. Surprise, surprise.
I'm not surprised.
All right, so some of the tools. This is from a DT. What should we share, or I guess what kind of multiple tools are available in order to, mine data or get data or effectively utilize data? Is there any like quick ones that come to mind?
Yeah, so when you say what kind of tools, for instance, Google, for instance, when you go into Google and you type in something in Google, that whatever information you type into Google is being stored. So that's them capturing data. So there are many ways you can capture data. So it depends on what you want to do at every given point in time. So it's just more of when you capture the data, how do you analyze data? If probably that's a question. Yeah, that very basic tools you can use. There's Google Sheets, there's Excel, where you can put data together and analyze it, well, on a very basic level. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
And what about I hear a lot of names thrown around sometimes, like the Tableaus and all these other famous sounding, really money grabbing enterprise tools that are used in order to not just collect, but to analyze and determine the value of data. What are some of those things that are utilized in the industry?
So currently the top tools for reporting is Tableau, Power BI. So what these tools do is just more of data visualization, right? So I think we're now in an age where interactivity is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
People don't like that static, things are not live or things are not kind of interactive.
Mm-hmm.
But Tableau, Power BI, the enterprise tools that help that interactivity. So once you have your data and you're able to kind of present it to your end users in an interactive way, of
Mm-hmm.
course, it's kind of more meaningful, and it's able to kind of portray the information, I think, in a much better way. So that's kind of basically what those tools do. It's just they're more interactive and they're more kind of, powerful tools. It makes the job easier, and because things are now going to more cloud dependent,
Mm-hmm.
I think those tools are kind of built to kind of withstand the new trend.
Okay, cool, awesome. I have a lot of questions, but I'm going to open it up to the floor. So please feel free to speak up, anyone.
I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more on your thought process when you approach analyzing a set of data. Like, how do you, what does your thought process look like when you are looking at breaking down a data set?
Okay, good question. So for me, let me give an example based on working in the financial sector. So it's just more of when I have access to data. My first question is why this data? What am I trying to accomplish analyzing this data, right? What are the key data points that I need to kind of look at in this data set? I can have various data points, but there are always key data points that I need to kind of really focus on and kind of use that to kind of derive my final analysis. So that kind of way I approach it. Sometimes it could be difficult to kind of get a conclusion, but it's just more of always see that in an iterative way, right? So once you start analyzing data, yes, you get some, you can accomplish some results of what you want, but at the first time, but you don't get exactly what you really want. But it's going to be a continuous process until you actually get the final desired results. But it's always a lot of work. Analyzing data is not the easiest. Yeah, it might always sound easy, but
Sounds like trial and error. Sounds like a
yeah,
lot of trial and error.
yeah, that's it. That's the word. It's trial and error. Yeah, a lot of trial and error. Definitely.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Anyone else would like to ask a question?
Yeah.
Hi, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Whoever wants to ask, go ahead.
Okay, hi. My name is Uzama. Thanks, Dele, for the presentation. My question really is, are there any behavioral traits that are common to data analysts? So are there things that are there? Does it favor a particular personality, or are there just some behavioral attributes that you need to have for you to venture into data analytics?
Good question. So I think, to be honest, let me just put it plain as it is. Like question I was just asking just now about when you're analyzing data, how long do you have to iterate to get to the final solution? You have to be patient. If you're not the patient type, if you're not the type that can get a lot of wrong answers before you get the right answer, I think it's going to be a problem. Because like I said, analyzing is just more of, sometimes you don't know the end result, but just more of you put things together and you try to kind of create that value out of the data. So it's not like someone gives you something now and they already tell you this is your endpoint. You have to kind of define that endpoint and make meaning of the endpoint. So I think from a behavioral point of view, you have to be patient, and it could be creative sometimes, but it's just more of being patient. That would be my own advice.
Well, thank you. I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
Someone wants to break into this industry. They want to get into data analytics. What's the first step? Where do they start? Should it be in a university? Can they take a course anywhere? And how important is a mentor that's already in the industry to them excelling?
Okay, so my advice to that is, that's always a difficult one, but I think interest is very key. Just I want to give a kind of easy answer here.
Okay, let me repeat the first part. Where does a person start? I'm interested in getting into this industry. I've never done it before. What's my first step, other than attending this meetup?
Yeah, of course, Meetup is just more of information, right? So you get the information to understand what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing is probably to, because working with data, you need to work with tools. And the question now is, how comfortable are you working with tools?
Mm-hmm.
How comfortable are you kind of doing the extra kind of extra work on your own? Because like I said, from my own experience, right, it's just more of, yes, I understand I need to get this done.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to learn a lot of tools,
Mm-hmm.
but I take that extra step to kind of, yes, learn, understand the bigger picture of technology itself, the bigger picture of what data is all about. And I think that was kind of my own drive. So I think for someone coming in, my advice will be, yes, watch a lot of YouTube tutorials, understand what the data is all about,
Mm-hmm.
understand about the tools,
Mm-hmm.
ask yourself the question is, are you ready to kind of do that extra work all the time, to kind of go the extra mile?
Mm-hmm.
Because don't forget, everyone's speaking about data now, right? So everybody's trying to get into this industry. But what will make you stand out is what the extra you bring to the table. right? It's always the extra that you bring to the table, and just not the basics.
Mhm.
People can come with the basic, yeah, I know Excel, I can do this basic stuff in Excel. But the question now is, what extra can you do in Excel?
Mm.
So if one of that's two you're using, what's the extra you can do in Excel? What's that extra? Like when it comes to analyzing data, like I said earlier on, it's more of you are given something to work with, but you don't know the endpoints. How can you define an endpoint, and how can you kind of tell your story?
Mhm.
Yes, this is what I see in this data, and this is what I can accomplish with this data. So I think that would be my own kind of advice. Yeah.
Thank you. We also have a question from the chat. How do you make yourself stand out in the job market? I guess I've heard this question many, many times, but I guess in this line of business, what are some of the extras do you feel, or have you seen people bring to the table that makes that difference?
Okay. Okay, so I'll probably go back to my own experience again. For me, okay, for instance, where I am working now, like I said, I'm now in the financial sector. I've been there for about 4 years now. It was an environment where, yes, we did a lot of software, we did a lot of data, but things were done in such a way that was easy, right? Most organizations it's more like everybody likes easy way, or work with Excel, everybody working in their own silo, doing things in their own silo. Nobody wants to try new things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from my own experience was when I got in, I was able to kind of even from the beginning, I was always more of kind of person I always want to try something new, right? So I think what made me stand out was more I was always looking at trying something new. Yeah, this way we do it today. Why can't we try this way? Why can't we try this other way? Must always keep on doing this in our own silo way of doing things. People don't like change. Yeah, you always get resistance. That's normal. But always kind of put yourself forward to suggest new things. And if you go for interviews, always kind of first of all understand what they do in that organization and you suggest something new. So whoever invited you, oh yeah, this person is thinking about something different. So that will probably make you stand out. And even when you're in the organization itself, I think you kind of keep continually portraying that yeah, you can give advices on how to do something new or do something in a different way. I think people get noticed that way. Yeah, there will be a lot of challenges. There will be a lot of fight back that people don't want to make changes. Well, they'll know that you're saying something, and once people get to see results, at the end of the day, the result speaks for itself.
Well, thank
So
you.
I think that would be my advice in that area.
Awesome. That question was from Matthew. Thank you.
Yeah. And just a little trailer, Matthew. Last month's meetup, we had a really good guest speaker that really hit this topic on the nail about trying to stand out in the job market and using tools such as LinkedIn, resume building. So if you're interested, I think we could share some information, Andrea, to Matthew, maybe offline.
Yep. Just connect with me on LinkedIn. I've posted my LinkedIn profile in the chat, and I can send you the job hunting. Like we gave a little toolkit. I think it's about 11 pages. So if you send me your information, I can send it to you, and you can download it directly from Dropbox.
And I am living proof of the instructions that were shared during that meetup. I took a screenshot of my analytics reach, or reach on my LinkedIn profile, and it went up 179% within 5 days. I took a screenshot just because of just some of the tools and techniques that were shared in that meetup. So it was a great session. The session really took a lot out of it. Awesome. Next question for you, Dele, is from Fela. What was your wow moment in regards to your career in data analytics? What was something that kind of just caught you and that you're still in an aha moment, like, wow, That's crazy.
Yeah. What was my wow moment?
Good question.
Yeah.
It's making you go wow right now.
Uh, that was a difficult one, but I think what I can probably say to that is more of I'll probably say there was a project I was working on in my office where I am now.
Yeah.
It was just more of, like I say, it was always that silo, people doing this, in a particular way of, they have their particular way of doing things. Everybody was a silo. So me getting on a project to kind of work with their data, to kind of help them understand how they can improve what they do, and how they can analyze and kind of report on their data. I think for me, probably what I call that what was a wow moment for me was more like, because before I started that project, like I said, you're going to have a lot of resistance. That's always going to happen. I know my project manager then did not get did not understand me, did not get where I was coming from, was trying to resist what I was trying to do.
Huh.
But at the end of the day, he became my best friend.
Is that your product manager or your project manager?
The project manager for that project became my best friend. Like, based on what we're able to accomplish.
They're okay. Those project managers, though, they're
Yeah.
Well, he's saying that because he's a product manager.
Yeah. Project manager. So I think for me, I tend to remember that moment a lot, because I think probably I would say that was one of my key moments in company I am now.
Yeah.
That kind of made me stand out a lot. So it's just more like things will happen, but at least being that very important to me was I'll probably say that was my wow moment.
That sounds great. So I'm just seeing from the chat and from the questions and from the kind of participants that we have in tonight's session that a lot of folks that are here are going to be, they're interested in getting into a career in data analytics, and that's why they're probably, because this is, like you said, a hot topic. It's sexy right now. So I'm seeing that the questions that are coming up in the chat, they're about, your experiences, how it's like to live within data analytics. So I'm going to give you another one here. This is from Taiwo. Regarding improving business performance, let's say you've collected your data and you've taken steps to clean that data and analyzed it. What are KPIs that would make you feel, I've done what I need to do in terms of analyzing the data? Good question, Taiwo.
Yeah, good question, Taiwo. So, like I said earlier on, is you have data, you keep on analyzing, keep on cleaning it. At the end of the day, there is no one right answer or one right final answer, right, or result. The more you analyze the data, the more you kind of understand better what you're trying to accomplish. So, like, for instance, you said KPIs. Yeah, you might give yourself some KPIs to kind of work with, but everything is always going to always vary based on what you're trying to accomplish, right? So always say, from this point of view, that when you analyze data, there's not always that just one answer or one result. It's just more of, the more you analyze the data, the more you have a better picture of that final result, and more you're able to kind of interpret your final result. So there's really no one final answer.
That answer your question, Taiwo?
I hope that helps, Taiwo.
Hope so.
Awesome. Okay. Good. Yep. Next one is from Dale. It says, given a data set, what steps will you take to analyze the data in order to arrive at predictive behaviors from the data set? So how would you be slicing and dicing it to build your picture, or to build your hypothesis or your scenario, to say that, this is what I need to come to terms with?
Yeah, so like I said, for predictive, you have to kind of kind of break your data into what has happened in the past, what could happen in currently, to help you kind of determine what's going to happen in the future, right? So just more of breaking historical and what's current, and trying to kind of see a little bit of trend to help you determine what could happen in the future. So just more of just breaking things into blocks, right?
Would that information be available to a data analyst such as yourself, or is that something you need to be searching for when you're in that role?
Yeah, so it depends on what you're working with. So it's probably depending on your industry. So probably if you're in a particular industry, you might have that data available to you already. If you're not working in that particular industry, with something in generic, yeah, you could probably gather the information from online. You have a lot of information online that could be very helpful. But the only thing that anytime you're using information from online, you have to kind of make people understand that you're picking this data set from a particular source, and how reliable is that source. So that would be helpful.
Yeah, 'cause I think one of the things you want to come to is arriving at that predictive behavior, right? Especially when you're working with big data. This is why we slice the bread, right? So I guess that's a good question, actually. And someone that's probably relatively new to the industry, they won't know, what type of, previous behaviors, how do I know what happened before? What's history of this data to know that what I'm going at, the path I'm trying to travel here is I'm on the right path. Because, when they do that presentation to your project manager, for example, they'll think, wow, where are you coming from? If you don't have anything to kind of baseline this big data against, right? So you want to make sure you're on the right path. I think that's where you're going with, right, Dale?
Yeah. So like I said, it's just more of when you're working with predictive. I don't predict something. You're predicting. You don't really know the future. You're just kind of coming up with based on what you know. You're trying to kind of assume or predict something for the future. So there's more of you're trying to analyze something based on what you know and what that you think it should be, right? So at that point, nobody really knows it. But like I also said, it's just more of there's never that just one answer, right? It's just more of giving a picture and you being able to kind of back your picture, right? This is the picture I'm giving, and you back it up based on this X and X reasons. So that's what's key. Yeah.
Yeah, that answered your question, Dale. Next one's from Tiffany. Tiffany, you want to ask your question to Dele?
Sure.
Yeah.
My question. Hi, I'm Tiffany. I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself the last time.
Okay.
My question is, how would you approach analyzing an employee, a potential employee who has all of the skills that you mentioned? So they have the skills, they have Excel, SQL, Tableau, Python, all of the basic programming, those standard programming languages, yet they don't have a degree. Would a degree candidate be considered a better option in your eyes, or how do you approach that kind of evaluation?
Good question. How am I going to approach that? So, from my own point of view, I will. Degree, to me, is just the basics, right? It helps you understand some very fundamental things. Well, I can speak for myself because I had undergraduate. I would add my undergrad in computer science and I had a master's in computer science. So I kind of had that on this basic understanding. But someone without a degree, could pick it up, learn. That's equally very good. But the question now is, that person that learned without a degree, what drives that person, and why is that person doing this? Is the person doing that because the person loves doing it, or is the person doing it because he just needs to find a job in that area? No matter what, that will we always show up at some point in time. So if we are doing it just because you want everybody's doing it and you just want to get a job in it, it will always tell at some point, and it's always going to weigh that person out. But if it's someone that loves doing it, I feel the degree will not really matter. That person will be able to kind of withstand the pressures of being in this field. Like honestly, when it comes to anything else with data, like I said, every single day we have new technology, we have new things coming out every single day. You have to be up to date. You have to keep on reading. You have to know what's happening out there. So you can imagine if someone just learned it just for one season and doesn't want to build on it, it's gonna tell. So I believe someone with a degree might be more resilient to kind of continue compared to someone that doesn't have a degree. So that would probably be the way I would approach it. But someone that has a degree that can kind of show that at least they are really keen and interested in knowing and learning more will probably stand out to me. So that's from my own point of view.
So if the person who doesn't have, but the only stipulation would be if the person who doesn't have a degree has the drive.
Yeah, so like if doesn't have a degree and has the drive and shows that real interest, once you have a drive, once you have real interest, it might be just for the season you have to drive, but you must really show that you have that drive. Because you can imagine if that person starts a job, yeah, fine, starts a job after 1 year or so. Like I say, from my experience, when it comes to data, you get stages where you have to kind of prove yourself. You have to kind of, when challenges come, you have to kind of be able to kind of stand out or kind of be able to withstand all the pressures that come your way. So if you are not kind of fully into it, it's going to tell. It's always going to tell, right? So, but for me, if person shows from the onset that yes, he has drive, fine. For me, I'm okay with that person, right? But my advice would be, if that person is just doing it for a season and doesn't even fully have that drive, it's going to end up turning at some point, right? But getting the job will be easy. That's not a big deal. But how do you continue and how do you withstand all the pressure that come your way, right?
Yeah, that's all I need to know. I'm fine with all of that. None of that scares me.
Well, that's fine. That's fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so it looks like we have one more question in the chat. And then I have 2 questions for you, and then we're going to try to wrap up because I know it's a Thursday night and people still have kids and all that kind of stuff, and people are probably zoomed out. So from a DT, does an individual require compulsory knowledge of programming language to learn data analytic tools or to pursue a career in data analytics?
Good question. I'll probably say no. It depends on what area of data you want to kind of focus on. If all you are going to focus on, maybe just using tools and being able to kind of analyze data, you might not go deeply into programming languages like probably Python or so. But at the end of the day, it's always going to give you the edge. So look at this scenario now. So if, for instance, you are analyzing a data now, yeah, you got to a particular point. You now want to dig deeper into that data, right? Like more of a diagnosis. You probably need a tool. Yeah, you might probably get some tools you can easily use. You don't have to know the programming language, how you can get the basics. But the question now is, you want to go further to get more information, you might need to kind of learn a little bit of some programming language to kind of go that extra mile. But of course, in a big team, you might not need to know programming language, but it's advisable that to get to know more, to get kind of deeper into any work, anything you're working on, you probably need that extra knowledge.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question to that. Sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
Yes. So when you said in a big team, like working in a big team, and I think my question is like there's 2 in 1. So we said you might have to say it's advisable to learn the programming language to learn the data analytics tools. So like, would you like what kind of language will it be? And also, and let's say for example, like an agile, like a scrum master or an agile coach or something like that. How would you advise that person in data analytics in agile to go about that?
So I think for me, when it comes to anything data, I think the very fundamental issue you should know is SQL. Being able to kind of put data from a data source. So when I mentioned a team, it's more like if it's a big team, for instance, you might be focused on just one particular area in that whole big project, right? So having that, I think having that basic knowledge is still always going to help. Is no matter what, it's always going to help you, because without, yeah, you can get into a team without probably knowing programming initially, but getting to really get integrated in that team, or getting to really get the best in that data analytics, you kind of need to delve into the tools, delve into the languages to really appreciate what you're doing, right? So it's so difficult to say that, yeah, you want to get in data analytics and you do want to get into some things. I think at the end of the day, you yourself are kind of restricting yourself from getting to the best of that industry, of that data analytics world.
Okay.
So getting into is okay, but at some point, of course, you have to kind of ready to learn and, of course, broaden your knowledge.
Okay. Thank you for that. Sorry, and I have another one. Sorry. So
Okay.
with when you're saying that, okay, learning the SQL and all the Tableau and all this little programming. So like we've talked about the programming and all the tools and all those things to use. Definitely there has to be like skills that come with those like learning. So I know you have the technical skills, which I think you're talking about right now. So what other skills would you say that to look out for, like in data analytics, for you to be successful with that?
So I think what I can advise is you have to be someone that's patient, because when it comes to analytics and trying to kind of analyze data and trying to kind of get looking towards a solution or result, it could be very frustrating. So having to know the tools, yes, is one thing, that's okay, but just being able to endure to get that done is kind of very key. So it's more of wanting to learn the tool, learning other things. The other thing is more of how you can get your end results, how you can present your end results is very important, because at the end of the day, you're telling a story, and whoever you're telling a story to needs to kind of understand what you're saying and appeal what you're saying, right, based on your information, on your data you have, right? So I think I have my advice. It's just more of you just have to kind of be ready to kind of get into it, and everything that comes with it is just more of you have your mind prepared for it, right? It's fun. It's a lot of fun, but you must enjoy it. For me, I enjoy what I do. So for me, it's not like I don't see it as working, right? So it's easier for me. So I think that's very, very key. Once you enjoy what you do, being able to work with that data, being able to kind of, yeah, when it challenges come, or when difficult times come, you're able to kind of wiggle around those periods. I hope that helps clarify your answer. Your question, sorry.
Yeah, it helps. It helps. And I was thinking of in line also as in I don't know if you can hear me, but in line of like so we have the technical skills and non-technical skills like of a team, right? I remember sorry about that. We're going into like agile and all those things, right? Like translating it into agile as a team. Like, how would you go about that as well?
Okay, so I'll probably give a scenario now of a project I'm working on also. So you can imagine an organization now, they give you a project to work on, right? Yes, you start from point A to point B, that's start and end of this project. But when you can now see the project, when you now as the data analytics person or someone that's working with the data, you now understand what you're working on, right? Yeah, so the question now is, can we get this done from within this schedule and within this time frame? You now have to kind of analyze that and ask yourself that question, right? Can this happen at this stage? And I know, like I told you earlier on, you always have to present a result to your end users at every given point in time for them to understand what you're doing and be able to appreciate what you're doing. So if, for instance, they give you X project now that's going to take like 6 months, and you know that this project you're working on, if we just continue working on it for that 6 months without taking something back to your end users to kind of put kind of from your understanding of the project and what you think you understand from what they want, if you don't kind of present to them for that 6 months and just take them at 6 months, of course there might be some drawbacks or probably they're not happy with the results. But this now where Agile now comes into play. Yeah, you know it's 6 months. Probably after the first 2 months, it's going to be an iterative process. You go back to them, show them what you have at that point, what you may be able to accomplish at that point, and kind of the business understands where you're coming from, where you're going to. Definitely at that point in time, there will probably be new ideas or new suggestions. Because don't forget, when we work with data, right, people work in silos. People do things the way they're comfortable doing things. So, but when you now start kind of going back and forth with them, like, yes, you can do this in a particular way. You can analyze the data in this way. If it's in a particular storage, if it's in central storage, you can easily retrieve it. You have to kind of grow, kind of, as you start the story, you keep on telling the story at every given point in time. You don't wait to the very end of the 6 months to say, oh, yes, I have my final results or my final solution. So that's why Agile is even very important in what we do as in data, because we have to always go back to the business, make sure we're aligned, and like I said, we're making changes to whatever they're doing at the current stage, current moment. So you have to kind of let them understand better why this change is required. So I think I didn't answer the question of how Agile fits into working with data.
Yeah, I think just to round up, and I've worked in a lot of data projects using agile methodologies, it really is just about showcasing the value with the statistics and, as we like to call them, showing the receipts as to why we're doing what we're doing. So thank you very much. We have 2 more questions in the chat, and then I have my own question. But before we do that, there's a lot of questions here from our group. I want to know if I have your permission to post your LinkedIn profile in the chat so people can continue the conversation and connect with you.
Yes, please, you can, yeah.
Okay, we'll do that right now. So guys, if you have more questions after we finish and you think of something else, or you just want to get a little more insight, or even looking for, a possible mentor or anything like that, I'm going to be posting that link right now. And please feel free to connect with either myself, Agile GTA, or with Dele directly. So let's go back to the question. So this is from James. Is there a business side to data analytics? For instance, having an idea of the basics, but not going too deep into the technicalities.
So my question, the first part is yes. Data is the business, right? the data drives the business. So for instance, having an idea of business, not deep into it. So when you say technicalities, so just kind of understand how I can categorize what you mean by technicalities. So it's one thing for you to understand the business, understand what data is all about, and it's one thing for you to be able to interpret data based on the business requirements. So when you say technicalities, are you referring to using tools, or are you referring to kind of know more of the nitty-gritty of the data analytics itself? So that's
if you're on the line, I don't know if you want to clarify, James, if you're on the line still.
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, what I was talking about is if, for instance, you own a business, like, can you go out getting business marketing and all that, trying to get a business on data analytics, like if you understand the basics, but you can go out to get business and all that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So at the end of
more
the day,
like a consultant or something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's just more of, as a consultant, if you are trying to kind of help a business understand what they do and probably give them solutions. Yeah, that's very possible. But like I said, the important thing is that you're telling a story. So if they give you their data, if they give you what data does today, from their own point of view, that's what they understand today, right? That's how they understand that data. But you're not coming in as a consultant to kind of look at the data, interpret it in a different way, now make them understand how they can use that same data to make more money, to have better performance in their company, to kind of course, there must be benefits for them for whatever solution you bring back to them. So yes, it's obviously very possible, but just more of you have to kind of bring that value back to them based on that data information they've given you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
We also have a question from Fella. How can I approach a career in data analytics after a layoff of about 3 years? Given that most companies are requiring the 3 to 5 year experience, note that he's about to complete a 6-month course in data analytics.
Okay, so what I'm going to advise is, okay, let me just say for everyone probably trying to get into data analytics or anything in data, to be honest, if we see roles, maybe more of junior roles, more of intro roles, I think it's always advisable to try that. I try to avoid probably more senior roles in the sense that because they expect a lot more from you, right? But more of intro roles, or they believe that you're coming in to kind of at least with the basics, and with that you're able to kind of grow. And like I told you, like from my experience, once you're already in, you can prove yourself. It's a matter of time for you to prove yourself to be able to stand out. Once you prove yourself, you stand out, you're up the ladder quick. That's the way it works. But coming in that initially on that level, there's so much expectation. And of course, when that expectation is not met, of course, it's not good morally for anybody, obviously, but that's always the case. So even like you said, even out for 3 years, and after your course now, if you're able to kind of get something very basic, a basic role or junior role, intro role, please give it a try. The main thing is to get into the industry. And once you're in, you learn what's in the industry, and like I said, you just have to prove yourself. That's just what it is. Prove yourself and stand out. That's very, very key. So I hope that helps, fella.
Oh, thank you so much. So this will be probably the last question, and then I'll tell you guys a few updates, and then we'll call it a night. So this question is from me. I'm obsessed with data. I've always been obsessed with data. I'm that person where I tend not to jump unless you show me the receipts. Like, what's my return on my investment, right? What's the value in this thing? With that being said, in watching world news, world politics, and the uprise of what people consider to be the dark side of data, when you think of things like Brexit and the information that was used to manipulate people and their perceptions, the current Cheeto-in-chief, soon to be exited, Donald Trump, and other things like that. And then you see, sorry, I know my question is long, but I'm using those as examples because then you see the counter action of that, like Trudeau the other day saying, I want to give Canadians the right to be able to erase their entire data history. What does that mean for the future of this industry? Will there be now like a weird code of ethics? Is it going to be tougher? Or is it just, you know what? All I do is collect data. You do what you want with it.
Wow. Okay, so
sorry, I know, but I'm just really interested. Like, there's the dark side of the net. Is there a dark side to data?
yeah, so okay, so what I think about that is today the way data is collected is so easy, and everyone is not kind of. I would probably say we are not that cautious about how data has been collected today. Even when you're our regular phone, everyone carries every day. If you know how much data that gets on you every single day, it's a lot. So having ability to just delete data, don't forget the cloud now. You have so many things all over the place. So having that one control to get things deleted or it's going to be very difficult. Well, from my point of view, it's going to be very difficult. And I think it's a tough one, but I think we as people who have become so comfortable with the way we do things, and I think when we see technology, we say, oh yeah, something new. But that something new is there's a reason for that something new. And when we see something that is free, nothing is free. Anything that they tell you is free, they want something from you. That's just the way it works. So it's I know, yeah, we'll say about black data. I don't know. It's a very tough question, but I think when it comes to data, is that control over data is just not going to happen. Even we ourselves are not helping that. So the more we give, the more people can do whatever they want to do with the data, right? So, and people passing all kinds of information all over the place. We have the medium there, so and it's more of what comes to you first. It's probably what you taking as the right information, right? So that's how you interpret that first information, and probably that's the way it happens. So that's a tough one.